First of all, welcome to my office. This is where I do a lot of my reports. And what I want to talk about today is that on Monday, Churchill Meadows Ratepayers Association held the first all-candidates meeting at Ruth Thompson Middle School. And I had prepared a speech, practiced it numerous times, and it came out to 5.5 minutes long. And I figured, 5 minutes, and then the people walk up to try to stop you, and then you got 30 seconds. Well, when we arrived, we were told that candidates were limited to 3 minutes. So, do the math, and half of this is gone. And in fact, you can see, like a lot of the candidates, I started deleting significant portions of my speech. And in fact, when I got up there, all I was able to do was deliver that. I didn't even get to pages 2 and 3. And that would be all right if I had done a decent job, but I didn't. And the important thing about my first speech was to have kept a promise that I'd made. And I suppose I did by physically going up there and everything else and attempting it, but I just didn't do it right. I didn't do it right. I want to read it now. A promise is a promise, Lieutenant Dan. Forrest Gump. By the act of me becoming a candidate, a promise is kept. And indeed, a promise is a promise, Lieutenant Dan. Some of you might remember the city's 3-day Our Future Mississauga conversation for the 21st Century meetings back in February 2008. I attended purely as observer and sat in on a group of people discussing social issues. Towards the last half hour, a self-described street youth arrived and shyly sat down. What a unique opportunity for us to learn, but it was not to be. The adults around the table squandered most of the time talking about how liberal and inclusive they were. When the session ended, it was clear that because of frequent interruptions, he had not gotten a chance to have his say. I followed him out and asked for an interview, since I knew he had an important message. It was then that I made my promise to him that his words would reach those in power. And a promise is a promise, Lieutenant Dan. I registered for the office of mayor to give that youth a voice. And this is his message to Mississauga politicians.
I'm speaking for a community of people. I'm not representing me. I'm representing a whole genre of people. So the basic thing would be respect us, help us to be self-sufficient, and we'll help you. You just got to give and take. If we want us to be something, you got to help us. You got to come out of your comfort zone. Come from your office, come from your desk, put down your job titles. Please do that. Like literally. Come off that way of thinking. And actually come into the streets and talk to the people that you claim you represent. You must. It's not even an option over there.
So, I didn't get a chance to read any of this or that. I'm going to do that now. Here's what I didn't get a chance to say. I've been researching City of Mississauga municipal governance through Freedom of Information since January 2007. And I've given up hope for those who need government most. To be fair, it isn't just Mississauga. I'm convinced that most municipalities in Ontario are morally beyond redemption. What is. However, I reached that conclusion only after age 60 and completing 4 years of extensive research. So it was a major surprise when a 19-year-old emailed me and offered what took me decades to figure out. Like the young man during the February conversation for the 21st century, I want to give this youth a voice as well. I quote his words now because a promise is a promise, Lieutenant Dan. And here's what he wrote me. The system is corrupt, and this is why there is youth violence. This is why there are guns on the street and drugs in the hands of children. The youth are fighting the system because it is corrupt. There is no way to fix it. Because the people higher up are sitting nice in their big leather chairs, driving their nice cars, living their perfect life, when some people in this world have to work hard to get by. And even by doing so, they get nothing. And after they realize how hard they have to work to get by, they break down and no longer want to live life being part of the system, because they realize that living life by the rules of the system gets them nowhere, because it is corrupt. And look at the word corrupt, all capitalized. And now I share this simple quote, a quote by Jim Paul Nevins, Ontario Court Judge, October 4th, 2001 report. The truth is that we, as a society, all of us, simply don't consider children very important. We talk a good game, but we don't think kids are as important as other things, like fixing the roads. Finally, consider this telling quote from Pastor Andrew King, speaking on youth violence, Brampton, November 25th, 2008. He said, "All I can say is, of all the panels I sit on, the first question that is asked is, where are the young people? We are talking about them, but they're not with us." Young people are very frustrated because there's a lot of panels. All the reports that are written about all the money we're going to spend. And they're very frustrated with the system right now. That's why they don't come to a lot of these things, because the truth is, they don't believe in what's happening. The youth who are most at risk don't trust the system. With good reason, they believe it is broken beyond repair. There is no simple fix, but a good step is to introduce authentic, independent accountability into municipal government. I therefore propose a simple test for you to use to decide who gets your vote. Ask your candidate, should the Ontario government extend the investigative authority of the Ontario Ombudsman to include municipalities? Unless you get an unqualified yes, then look to someone else to support.